So everybody, it's 22:52 on Tuesday night. Now, I did have a T-bone steak and everything to do a Fat Steve Cooks for you, but got a bit late. I did go to the Gin earlier and have some kebabs, and I just want to say I had some troll on Facebook today commenting and saying that oh, you only used to go to Costa, and when you met Dawn you seem to be going out eating meals and enjoying yourself. So you must have been milking her money. I deleted her straight away, but she might be able to see YouTube. So just for you, I had nearly £400 a week ESA. With preserved rights from what I'd paid in stamps in my working life. And I met Dawn and I had to give all that up because she couldn't move in without us claiming universal credit. So the universal credit was, I think, £444 a fortnight. And because I'm a fraudster, a career fraudster, and we both banked at the same bank, every time I got a universal credit payment, even the carer's allowance payment, which was nearly £2,000, I would go in that bank with her and transfer half of that payment to Dawn's account. It's chips and knife. So £444, I think, roughly. I was left with half of that, 222. A fortnight. That's around £110 a week. When I used to have 300 to 400 ESA with preserved rights. When I met Dawn, when I claimed universal credit, and she told me she had savings, and savings were about 15 grand. She still has about 15 grand savings. That cost about £130 a week off the universal credit. But we still managed to go to hotels and make videos and enjoy ourselves and go to the Imperial and other places. Because we didn't take fucking drugs and sit in the gutter begging for money for drinking drugs. So, as I've tried to point out lots of times, universal credit is a shock. But if you don't take drugs and don't need to sit and drink and piss yourself in the gutter. This ship's going down a tree. Then you can afford to go to nice hotels and eat nice food and do nice things. Now, this is supposed to be the intro for the next instalment in Mad Fat Steve's life stories, in particular the VAT fraud. So I think this is probably going to be the longest intro. So to get to the proper intro, I'll leave you there for a minute. Hi everybody, it's Fat Steve.
Hello, it's Fat Sandra, but I'm not fat.
And together, we're Spices Media. So, folks, welcome to more installments of my mad life. Fat Steve's mad life. In particular about the VAT frauds. Now, I have had a drink, obviously. It's quite late at night.
This is a reminder. Good evening, Mon Capitan. It's 11 p.m. It's 11 p.m. and time for bed.
So, I'm not going to bed.
This is a reminder. Good evening, Mon Capitan. It's 11 p.m. It's 11 p.m.
Excuse me. I've had my chips. I've got £2 of T-bone steak in the fridge and veg. I'm now going to have to buy more chips to do a Fat Steve Cooks for you. Anyway, the VAT frauds. So I'd got right up to the time when we were travelling around on the boat VAT 69. I've mentioned the house we rented in Bolton. I'm not sure if I mentioned the one that we rented at Uxton near Chorley, where we had a driveway where you could park 32 cars. We had probably 7 or 8 staff. There were cottages in the grounds. Some people lived in the main house, some people in the cottages. There were stables, there was horses, there was a helipad. The cars I used to collect, one of them was a white, it's pissed folks, one of them, white, the car that was in the Bond film that drove underwater, a Lotus. A white Lotus, replica of that, just the same car. It didn't run, but it looked really fucking nice on the drive. And that was just one of the cars. So we had Porsches, Mercedes, Lotuses, so many, probably, I think there were nearly 30 odd cars. I think, in fact, it's funny because I think there was 32 cars and 32 staff. People, dog groomers, horse people, cleaners, gardeners, cooks. It was fucking crazy, folks. Absolutely fucking crazy. The expenses were something like £2 grand a day for the staff and the rent. And I had a room a bit like I show you sometimes in the Winter Gardens. There's a galleon bar, which is a bit like a ship. Well, I had a room in there, cost me 50 grand to have it built, and it was a bit like the back of a deck of an old ship. So it had a wooden bunk and table and all beams, and so I was sat in this old ship as the ship's captain. My wife at the time, I said her name the other day by mistake, sorry. If you're offended by that, I'm sorry. Anyway, her room was about the size of a sports hall with AstroTurf, and it had Rambo, Charlie, Patch. God, I can't remember the names. I think there were 5 dogs that were our family running around. In one corner there was a bowling alley that like you would see in an amusement arcade. There was a projector screen bigger than I have here, and she had this huge box that we could carry around in the car, and it had, I think it was a Wii, an Xbox, the other one, and they would project on this screen. And there was the dogs that I said, there was cats, there was parrots flying around, there was a pot-bellied pig, a pit pony, and a horse called Murphy, that once came out of her room and went upstairs, and it cost me a fucking grand for people to come and get, because horses don't like going downstairs, to bring it back downstairs. One of the little dogs we had, I think, was Charlie, which was her baby, jumped out the fucking bedroom window into a tree and escaped one day. So this was all quite strange, quite wild. There were parrots flying around, all these fucking animals in this room. And I came home this day and I didn't know if she was in or not, and I opened her lounge door and this voice went and I moved the door and this girl got up. I think she was 19, and she was dressed in a French maid's outfit with long blonde pigtails. She looked just like a typecast milking maid that you see sat on a field in France, and she even had a stool with 3 legs, and she sat behind the door, and I'm like, hello, and she says, hello, are you Steve? I said, yeah. She says, I'm the new staff. I said, what's your job? She said, Laurel's hired me to clean up the mess with in her menagerie. I went, oh, okay, oh, right, love it. So I shut the door, came out of there, went upstairs, and Laurel's upstairs, I've said her name again, with one of the security staff in a rather compromising position, but that was soon overlooked. And we had a little chat. I said, who's this girl? I've hired her to clean up the mess in my lounge. I said, oh, it's okay. Right, love, right. She said, £300 a week. I said, yeah, that's okay. She's bisexual, you know. Yeah. Do you felt... And within 10 minutes, you can't believe what was happening, folks. This was the life I had with all this money. It wasn't necessarily the life that I wanted, because I loved my wife, I loved the money, I loved the cars, I loved the boats, I loved the fucking craziness of it all. But I just went along with it. And she had a tennis pro as a boyfriend. A couple of the bodyguards that lived in and around the house. It were just fucking crazy. And I know I've had a drink now, but I'm still not exaggerating. I'm trying to tell you what life was like in them days. So quite often we'd flirt off, and I said it, I was explaining in the last video, in this trio of cars. So we would have a chauffeur in the S500 limo. In the ML, we'd have a nurse in the back and another one of the security guards driving it. And we'd have another one of the security guards driving my personal car. And we'd travel down to Southampton, up Scotland, all over the fucking country, costing thousands and thousands. And they were crazy times. I mean, absolutely crazy, folks. But that wasn't what I wanted. What I wanted with all that money was a 6 foot, size 8, blue-eyed blonde, holding an arm on either side of me, walking along going, like you see in the fucking movies. But that didn't happen. All that fucking money. But I couldn't get what I wanted. So that's a little lesson for you all. No matter what you do, no matter how much money you have, you only really get what's available. And with all the money in the world, you can't get what you want. So, here we go. We're in this big house. And my wife would say, I want some Kentucky, love. I'd say, okay, my darling. So, we'd press a bell. One of the security, can you nip out and just take whatever car you want and get her some Kentucky? And I said, I could do with Chinese. I'll have a sweet and sour chicken Cantonese with fried rice, and just ask what anybody else wants. I could do with 20 silk cut ultra low. She wants another bottle of wine, and get me a bottle of whiskey while you're out, and see what the lads want. So I'd fish out £300 to £500, and one of the security would go out. Now, although we had all these staff, we still tried to keep life simple and easy. So he'd go out buying the food, but before he went anywhere, he'd go to Asda, just down the road, and he'd buy 12 plates and 12 sets of knives and forks. And he'd come back and we'd all eat this takeaway food with these plates and knives, and then just throw the fucking lot away. It didn't matter. There was that much money. It didn't matter. Just throw it away, and whoever the washer-upper was didn't have to wash up, just to try and make life easier for everybody, but at my expense. But it was okay. Hi everybody, it's Fat Steve.
Hello, it's Fat Sandra, but I'm not fat.
And together, we're Spices Media. So bye everybody, Fat Sandra and Fat Steve, Spices Media.